In the last few weeks, I have been bringing to you the entire geographical and the military contest between India and China along the line of actual control, especially in Ladakh and Aksai chain. But there is a greater game that gets played along the geopolitical fault lines in the Himalayas involving India, China and Pakistan. And that's the subject of Simply Nitin this week. I am Nitin Gokhale. So what is the fault lines that I am talking about? It is the geopolitical map making or cartographic aggression shown by China and Pakistan against India, not now but from the 1960s. As all of you know, the Pakistanis ceded a part of what used to be the Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, called the Shaksgam Valley, to China in 1963 to allow it an access to Pakistan from the Xinjiang province in China. The Karakoram highway from Kashgar, the capital of Xinjiang, to Hasan Abdal, which is just beyond Islamabad, was facilitated because the Shaksgam Valley was ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963. The Karakoram highway, of course, took a long time to be built, and it's 1300 kilometers long from Kashgar to nearly Islamabad. It passes through a pass called Khunjerab, which is at an altitude of 4,800 meters, reportedly the highest pass or a highest motorable pass in the world. But the Karakoram highway must not be confused with the Karakoram pass, about which I have been speaking about in the past few episodes of Simply Nitin, while telling you the geography and the terrain of Daulat Beg Oldi, Depsang Plains, Aksai Chin, and of course India's deployments in those areas. The Karakoram pass is above or north of DBO, which is part of Ladakh, and the Khunjerab pass is to the northwest of the Karakoram pass. The Karakoram highway does not pass through the Karakoram pass, but it passes through the Khunjerab pass, as you can see on the map. Now, why am I talking about the Karakoram highway? Because since 2016, China has started building what is called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The origin of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is of course from Kashgar, which means the part of the Karakoram highway which I spoke about. And in Pakistan it goes beyond Islamabad. From Islamabad it goes to Lahore, from Lahore it goes to Karachi, and from Karachi it goes to Gwadar, which is a port in the Balochistan province of Pakistan. Now, why is the CPEC important for China? It is important because it gives China the access to the warm waters of Arabian Sea and of course westwards to the Gulf countries, from where it imports 70% of its oil. Right now, most of its oil travels from the Persian Gulf and the Gulf countries and the Gulf of Oman and the Gulf of Aden through the Malacca Straits into mainland China. It's a long way off from there. But if the CPEC gets activated, gets fully developed, then the Chinese have a shorter route through Gwadar and mainland Pakistan going through Gilgit Baltistan, which is actually used to be the part of the Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir territory, which India claims as its own. Now, why is China a little worried and a little more aggressive on India or against India? It's because in August 2019, when India changed the status of Jammu and Kashmir to a union territory and carved out a separate union territory for Ladakh as a separate administrative entity, India included the Gilgit Baltistan part of the old Jammu and Kashmir princely state in Ladakh, which straight away brought the Ladakh boundary or the Gilgit Baltistan part of the Ladakh boundary in direct contact with the Chinese boundary. or the Chinese province of Xinjiang, which of course the Ladakh was always part of the boundary between Xinjiang and Ladakh. But Gilgit Baltistan, which is claimed by India, is especially a sensitive area for Pakistan because, and to China of course, because the CPEC goes through Gilgit Baltistan. Now, does India have any designs to claim Gilgit Baltistan militarily? Not that we know of. But the Chinese are very sensitive to any geopolitical changes that come around its boundaries, its territories. And they have of course issued a statement saying that India should not change the status quo. India should not unilaterally try and alter the boundaries of the contested areas that China has with India. India has not paid heed to it because India has said, just like we don't interfere in China's internal affairs, China and Pakistan should not interfere in India's internal affairs, because the administrative changes, the constitutional changes that have been brought in are internal to India. Now, questions have been raised whether the military build-up in Aksai Chin and north of DBO along the Karakoram Pass part of China's coercion, China's tactics to build pressure on India. Well, we don't know. But as I said, the Himalayas have been a very contested kind of a region. Earlier in the 19th century, we had the great game between Russia and British India. Then of course, we have the Chinese coming into play because Pakistan ceded the Shaksgam Valley to China. And of course, Pakistan claims part of the old Jammu and Kashmir princely state, which is the Gilgit Baltistan area, and now what we call is part of Ladakh. So Himalayas are not quiet. They are contested, they are unquiet, they are also part of contested map making exercise between India, China and Pakistan. In between there is Siachen Glacier and the actual ground position line, which I had showed you in one of the episodes a few weeks ago or maybe even last week. So therefore, the CPEC, which gives China the access to Arabian Sea and of course gives Pakistan a lot of investment from China. Some figures say that China is investing something like $51 billion in various projects, which includes electricity projects, which includes other industries to be set up along that corridor called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and gives Pakistan a lifeline given its precarious economic condition. Whether it translates into reality is of course a big question, because Chinese projects have tended to fall short of expectations even in the other parts of the region, be it in Sri Lanka or in Central Asian republics or in Bangladesh. But that is something between China and Pakistan. What India is looking at is that China is building that CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which itself is a very opaque project and in my view is not an economic project but a political project. It's a geostrategic project, it's a geopolitical project to gain access to Arabian Sea, I am repeating again. And therefore India has protested. Remember, in 2017, India was the only major country apart from United States which did not join the Belt and Road Initiative Forum, which China had organized in Beijing to get almost every country in the world on board. Now, India said that the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, going through Gilgit-Baltistan, violates India's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and therefore it is not acceptable for India to join that project. That apart, India also has protested against what it calls opaque practices and practices which are contrary to international norms when it comes to project funding and project arbitration. All that of course are minor issues. The bigger issue, as I said, is the geopolitical context and the setting in the Himalayas. As I mentioned, the Karakoram highway was of course in violation of India's territorial integrity way back in the 1960s. India couldn't do anything about it, but now with the changed status of the Ladakh Union Territory and its maps, which have been published by the government of India, has perhaps sent alarm bells ringing in China, and that is why the military build-up and the military coercion that China is attempting to put on India, against India? We don't know. But in Simply Nitin, the purpose is to give you a basic idea of what happens in those forbidding heights, altitudes in the Himalayas, and why they remain a contested region for so many years now, for decades. And of course, India has to keep a watch. India, I don't think, has a plan militarily to interdict in the CPEC. One, because as I said, they are forbidding heights. Second, the cost of doing all that is not commensurate with the outcome, if at all India wants an outcome there. And third, of course, that the Karakoram highway has been in existence for almost 30 years now, the full Karakoram highway, which connects China and Pakistan. If India didn't do anything earlier, it's unlikely that India will do anything now to the Karakoram highway or the CPEC physically. But the fact that India claims the territory in Gilgit Baltistan, which is part of now Ladakh Union Territory on the official maps of India, has sufficiently irked China, and therefore the pressure on India perhaps at various places, not just in Ladakh, but in Sikkim and in Arunachal Pradesh. But all that for some other time. For the time being, please understand that the CPEC violates India's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and China and Pakistan are both aware of it. But just one change in India's territories on the map has riled them no end. What will be the consequence? We don't know. We'll have to wait and watch. So until the next episode, it's goodbye and good luck. But don't forget to watch us on our YouTube channel, like us on our various social media handles, and of course, keep sending feedback to our emails that have been provided there.